Paramount and Skydance have finally made it official, at least I think so, and I've got the details of the deal right now. This video is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Go to expressvpn.com/Murrell to see how you can get 3 months free, and stay tuned after the video for more info. Hello everybody, I'm Dan Murrell here with a breakdown of the massive deal that's going to see Paramount come under new ownership for the first time in decades. Now, I had meant to put this video out yesterday morning, but on Monday night, Arkansas got hit by a huge band of rain from Tropical Storm Beryl, and just as I was getting ready to shoot the video, water came rushing through the roof. So my Monday night and yesterday, Tuesday, were spent pretty much dealing with that. I have seen a lot of things here on the channel since I started it over 4 years ago. This is the first actual rain delay that I've had on a video, but I did want to talk about this because this is a huge deal. I've done a few different videos covering the high drama of the Paramount deal or lack of a Paramount deal, and last time we talked, it looked like there would be no merger between Skydance and Paramount after they pulled out of the deal at the last minute, but they went back to the negotiating table, and it seems like they have actually maybe finally really figured out what they were going to do. So let's break down the details of this deal after months of negotiation and wrangling. First of all, if you're not familiar with Skydance, it is a film company that's been financing movies for years, including the new Star Trek movies and Mission Impossible, and it's led by David Ellison, who will now become the CEO of the new company. He's also backed by the investment firm Redbird Capital. Ellison will be the CEO, and the president of the new Paramount, which is what they're calling it, will be Jeff Shell, who was formerly the CEO of NBC Universal from 2019 to 2023 until he was fired for cause for sexual harassment after a years-long affair with an NBC employee was revealed. I covered that story right here on the channel, and here he is, right back on top. Or, well, in charge. I guess back on top may not be the best way to phrase that. So how does this all work? Well, to quote various executives at Wayne Enterprises, it's all a bit technical, but the important thing, especially to Sherry Redstone, is that Paramount's future is secure. The deal involves a total investment from Skydance and Redbird of around $8 billion. $2.4 billion will go to acquire National Amusements, which is the parent company of Paramount, CBS, and Viacom. $4.5 billion will be paid out to current shareholders for their stock, and $1.5 billion in cash will be infused directly into Paramount for operational expenses. Paramount will technically acquire Skydance with that $4.5 billion sales in stock, but because the people that own Skydance will own the parent company, it is really more of a merger. It's a technicality. Listen, these are business things that are way above my head, but it is technically a merger between these two studios under the umbrella of the larger company. So what do the shareholders get? This was a big sticking point in previous versions of the deal. Class A shareholders, these are the people like Sherry Redstone, the shareholders with voting powers, will be offered $23 per share, which means that Redstone is going to walk away with around $2.3 billion. Class B, or common shareholders, the ones who don't have voting rights and were potentially threatening legal action should Sherry Redstone cash out at their expense, will get $15 per share and an offer for either cash or stock in the new company. Both of those prices are a premium on the current Paramount stock price, which is at about $11 per share. So people that are invested are going to walk away with at least some value, and current shareholders in Skydance will reportedly be offered around 317 million shares in the new company at that $15 per share price. All told, Ellison and his investors will eventually own 70% of all shares in the company and 100% of the Class A voting shares, which means they will have full control of the company. Now, this deal doesn't take effect immediately. It has to go through all of the usual regulatory hurdles, and it's estimated that the merger won't actually happen until the third quarter of next year, 2025. So in the meantime, the current leadership group at Paramount stays in place, and they are free to pursue things like partnerships with other streaming services, the sale of assets like BET, and other strategic changes, although Ellison, Skydance, and the investors will be consulted. They'll have a voice, but they won't technically have the final decision-making power. In a statement following the sales announcement, Sherry Redstone said, quote, "In 1987, my father, Sumner Redstone, Redstone acquired Viacom and began assembling and growing the businesses today known as Paramount Global. Given the changes in the industry, we want to fortify Paramount for the future while ensuring that content remains king. Our hope is that the Skydance transaction will enable Paramount's continued success in this rapidly changing environment. As a longtime production partner to Paramount, Skydance knows Paramount well and has a clear strategic vision and the resources to take it to its next stage of development. Sherry Redstone, if you'll remember, was reticent to make a deal because she didn't want the company that her family had built to be broken up. That's why bidders like Sony didn't immediately get more consideration when they were offering to buy the company, because it was fairly obvious that they were going to basically strip it down for parts, maybe sell the TV networks here, maybe shut down Paramount Plus, merge the studio with Sony so Paramount may not even exist anymore. But it seems like Redstone may have ultimately gone with Skydance after all, because they've explicitly said that they don't want to break up the company. Gary Cardinal, the managing partner of Redbird, who's helping to finance this deal, said, quote, "What's very important for Sherry and her family is the protection of legacy, and the way to do that is you recapitalize this over 100-year-old business. You don't take it private, break it up, and kill it. That has been the fundamental crux of this entire deal." So what does this mean for the future of Paramount and the various industries under the National Amusements umbrella? Well, one big change that David Ellison has already talked about is incorporating technology into the company with the help of his father, Larry Ellison's company, Oracle. He said that he basically wants to make it almost a hybrid tech and entertainment company, and there have been strong indications that a place where a lot of that innovation is going to go technologically is Paramount's streaming service, Paramount Plus. David Ellison said, quote, "Our intention is to rebuild the Paramount Plus platform and believe that with the technological prowess and relationships that we have, we can expand our direct-to-consumer business." And this really seems like a resurrection of sorts for Paramount Plus, because many people, including myself, had just assumed that the streaming service was basically DOA no matter who bought the company, because it has been struggling so much over the years. Instead, it seems like it may be sort of a funnel for some of these technological innovations that David Ellison wants to bring to the company, as well as a keystone and a new way of doing business when bundling streaming services. Jeff Shell said, quote, "For consumers, number one, if you have all these streaming services, you want to watch something, you don't know if you get it. You have to try to remember where it is. For most consumers who are price sensitive, it is pretty expensive right now to get all these services. So I don't think it's rocket science to suggest that that consumer experience is not sustainable. Eventually, there's going to have to be some form of bundled solution that's easy and simple for somebody. When people get home from work after working a hard day, they want to watch something. They don't want to spend 30 minutes trying to figure out what they get. If you're in that bundle, you're going to win. And if you're not in that bundle, you're in real trouble." And this is a direction that the streaming industry has been moving toward for a long time. The idea of taking one or more of these services, Paramount Plus, Peacock, Max, and bundling them together in some sort of a strategic partnership to help to keep the costs down for the consumer, but also to increase profits for all of these companies, and so that they don't have to go it alone when it comes to all of these different streaming services. So it appears like it's a stay of execution for Paramount Plus, but that's not going to be the case for a lot of the employees that currently work for Paramount. And this is an important part of any one of these stories. Whenever we talk about a big merger or acquisition, there are going to be job losses, and probably a sizable number of them. First of all, Paramount's already said that they have $500 million in cuts that they plan to do even before this merger takes place. And Skydance has said that they have $2 billion in cuts that they want to make to help make the company, quote, more efficient. And if you've been around this industry long enough, you know that when a company says that they want to make something more efficient, that means they're going to lay people off. And so, as we saw with the Disney-Fox merger and with just about any merger, when Warner Brothers Discovery merged, we are going to see a lot of people lose their jobs. And so for an entertainment industry that's been in crisis mode for what seems like a few years now, we're going to have an influx of people who are not going to have jobs, and they're going to go to an industry now where jobs are harder to find than ever. There are some upsides to this deal, but this is the very real downside to any deal like this. And I think it has to be noted and recognized for a lot of people who work at Paramount. This is going to be a very, very bad thing. So what does this mean for the overall Hollywood landscape? Well, one thing that I think is a positive is that we have a major studio and a studio of great historical significance like Paramount that's going to remain independent. Now, they may not even still be called Paramount, and they're going to be under drastically different leadership, but at least they're not going to be absorbed into another studio like Sony to form another mega studio like we have now with Disney and Fox. They also have a CEO in David Ellison who has experience as a producer and a financier and has a passion for movie making. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that this new venture is going to succeed, but it's not the worst case scenario that I and many other people envisioned. In a world of lesser evils, this seems to be, I guess, one of the lesser of the lesser, but there is one small asterisk to this deal actually being done. There is a clause in the deal that was reportedly insisted upon by Sherry Redstone that allows a 45-day window for another buyer to come forward with a better offer for Paramount. So even though this has been announced, even though Redstone has signed off, and even though it seems like a done deal, technically, if somebody else came forward with a better offer, Skydance could end up not getting their hands on Paramount after all. Now, if that were to happen, they would get a $400 million walkaway fee. And so I think it's very unlikely that this is going to happen, especially because Redstone does seem to be on board. It's going to keep Paramount intact. And I don't think that they want to pay $400 million, especially because the company's not exactly flush with cash. But if we're talking about all possibilities in Hollywood, there is technically still a chance that Skydance will not merge with Paramount. And honestly, given the absolute insanity of this whole process, would it be the most surprising thing if there was still just a little bit of drama left at the top of the mountain? So those are the basic outlines of the Paramount Skydance deal, and I'm sure that we'll learn a lot more as it goes through all of these regulatory hurdles over the next year plus. What do you think? Are you happy that there's a studio that's going to remain independent even though you have that downside of job losses? Or do you think that they should have taken another deal? Let me know down in the comments below. And before we go, I want to thank the sponsor for this video, ExpressVPN. Now more than ever, you want to feel safe when you're online, which includes not being tracked and monetized by companies, including your own internet service provider. Just because you pay them to access the internet doesn't mean that your activity isn't being tracked and monetized every day. ISPs in the US can legally sell your information to ad companies, but you don't have to accept that anymore. With ExpressVPN, you can reroute your internet connection through their secure servers so your ISP can't see the sites you visit and can't cash in on your personal data. Not only can ExpressVPN keep you from being tracked, they can't track what you're doing either. All of your data is 100% encrypted, and it runs completely seamlessly. Most of the time, I don't even realize that I have it on. And it's not just great to use at home, it's great to use on the road, at airports and hotels, where unsecured Wi-Fi networks could put your security at risk. Protect your online activity today with the VPN rated #1 by CNET and Mashable. Visit my exclusive link, expressvpn.com/Murrell, and you can get an extra 3 months free on a 1-year package. That's expressvpn.com/Murrell, expressvpn.com/Murrell to learn more. Thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video, and thank you for watching. Be sure to stay tuned right here for more movie news, reviews, box office, and more. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.